Madam President, my briefing today will provide brief updates on 8 areas. Firstly, political developments. Secondly, regional developments. Thirdly, a security update. Fourthly, women, peace and security. Fifthly, human rights. Sixthly, humanitarian situation and links to climate change. Seventhly, economic development. And finally, transition. So, Madam President, I will begin with an update on political developments. The National Consultative Council proposals of the 27th of May on the proposed new electoral model continue to be debated intensely. On the positive side, there is broad public support for the transition to one-person, one-vote elections. But there is also a realization that the timelines proposed by the NCC are too ambitious. The UN is therefore working with the Ministry of Interior, Federal Affairs and Reconciliation to develop a realistic plan which will nevertheless ensure the momentum towards one person, one vote is maintained. We welcome the recent approval by Parliament of the procedural rules for constitutional changes. This now sets a clear pathway on process. It is now urgent to reach an inclusive consensus on the electoral framework, and on the Constitution, we encourage all parties to engage in the spirit of compromise to finalise the process. Without an agreed constitution, Somalia remains vulnerable to perennial crises with no agreed rules of the game to enable resolution. I commend the people of the federal member state of Puntland on the peaceful conclusion of the electoral process on the 8th of January 2024. President Saeed Abdullahi Deni, the 6th president of Puntland, was re-elected by the Puntland State Assembly to a second term in office. The presence of President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud and 3 federal member state presidents at the inauguration on the 25th of January was a positive signal. And we hope this has created the foundation for a reset of dialogue with full re-engagement of President Deni in the NCC process. The planned Garowe conference on the future of Somalia could be an important part of this reset, with the opportunity for wider consultation with key stakeholders, including women and youth. In Las Anud and the Sul region, the situation has remained calm since the violence of November 2023. There is, however, no formal ceasefire. We continue to urge all parties to work towards an immediate exchange of detainees, a commitment to no further violence, and to start dialogue to address the underlying drivers of the conflict. As the UN, we continue to provide humanitarian assistance to those affected and to support demining and early recovery. Madam President, my second update concerns regional developments. On the 1st of January, Ethiopia and Somaliland announced a memorandum of understanding which reportedly grants Ethiopia a 50-year lease on 20 kilometres of coastline in exchange for certain political and economic benefits to Somaliland. The full details of the MOU are not available, but public pronouncements have generated strong, hostile public reaction in Somalia. It is also worrying to see Al-Shabaab exploiting the situation as a tool for recruitment. We recognise that the strong feelings in Somalia are putting pressure on the government to respond, and we encourage the President to remain measured in his response. I echo the words of the Secretary-General, who has recalled that the Security Council has repeatedly affirmed its respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity and unity in Somalia, and called for all parties to engage in peaceful and constructive dialogue, and to refrain from inflammatory words or actions that could further escalate tensions. The situation must be resolved through constructive dialogue. In that regard, it is disappointing that no significant progress was made at the recent Africa Union summit. Madam President, my third update focuses on the security situation. Countering Al-Shabaab remains one of the government's top priorities. Heavy rains and flooding hampered operations towards